welcome to In the Huddle, the 2009 version. I'm Kevin Cooney from the Bucks County Courier-Times, and I'm welcoming back this year as football beat writer at the Intelligencer, our good buddy Dom Cosentino. Dom, welcome aboard.
Good to be here, Kev. Good to be back, and good to be in front of the camera, I guess, for the first time with you.
Yeah, the first time with Dom. We thank Drew from last year, but we're ready to go here. 2009, as we're about to get underway. We're at New Hope Solebury High School. New Hope this year, its first varsity program. First year it's having a varsity program. We'll talk about them in a minute, but let's get started by talking about the divisions as they break down the Suburban 1 League. Play will start Friday night, and obviously I think most of the attention so far is going to be concentrated on that race in the National Conference, Dom, with Pennsbury, Neshaminy, and Abington kind of sharing the role as favorites in a lot of people's eyes. How do you see this coming?
I see it exactly as you just described it, Kevin. I think we've got the top three teams. Pennsbury and Neshaminy have been there, but Abington has got a lot of pieces coming back. They're going to be in the mix. Council Rock North, I think, certainly can make an argument, and some coaches have discussed them as well. But I think Pennsbury in particular, with the skilled players they've got back, Brandon Pepper at quarterback, Dante Devine, moving over from fullback to be their wing back, their primary ball carrier, and the dynamic talent that is Eric Williams, who's receiving a lot of attention from college recruiters, 6'3", 200-pound receiver, also will play safety for them this year. They're going to be something to talk about in Neshaminy and Abington, as we mentioned, too.
It's rare when you talk about Pennsbury, you talk about a wide receiver and you talk about a quarterback being two of their bigger players, but obviously Williams and Pepper are going to be keys. Dante Devine, I think, is probably the wild card in all this. If you look at Abington, they're going to have Sam Kind and Julian Ireland back. Their questions, I think, are more along the defensive side of the ball. A lot of new faces there. Neshaminy gets Brian Dean back at running back. The question is who's going to start at quarterback. They've had a little bit of a competition there between Brian Titus, who's the incumbent starter, and Charlie Martorella, who is the junior that they seem to really like. A couple questions along their line too. Pennsbury, I think on paper, I'm not sure if you agree, is the most solid team, top to bottom.
Yes, I would agree with that, just based on everything you described and everything that's out there. The big question mark, I think, for a lot of these teams across the board is going to be the offensive and defensive lines, because there seem to be, even at Pennsbury, a lot of turnover up there where you don't have a lot of guys, or even many guys at all, coming back, and not having that sort of veteran presence and the opportunity for a lot of the line mates to gel and know their roles is going to be crucial as the season goes on, as it is, anytime.
Now we'll switch into the Continental. You look at North Penn and Quakertown. Quakertown getting a lot of preseason hype here. What do you see out of the Panthers coming in, and can they challenge North Penn for the conference title? It's
gonna take a lot. Quakertown is going to be, I think, the team that gives the opportunity, that has the opportunity to challenge North Penn this year. It's not going to be easy. North Penn, while they did graduate all of the skill players pretty much that they had from a year ago, they do have a lot coming back, and while they do also have a good number of linemen who also graduated, North Penn has shown through the years, particularly throughout Dick Beck's tenure, that they're able to just sort of get that going again. And the early schedule for North Penn will determine a lot in terms of what they can do once they enter league play, but they have to be the favorite.
Their challenge is going to be those first 2 or 3 weeks, you're right. And then from there, I don't think Quakertown's going to face the type of competition that's going to prepare them for North Penn down the road. That's a big challenge, I think.
That's true, but Quakertown has been building for this. I mean, they had the one-win season 2 years ago, and I think when the leagues were realigned, I had written for one that you felt it was going to be a challenge for them to move up from the American to the Continental. They proved themselves last year. They won 9 games, and they've got a lot coming back from that. And while North Penn has sort of set its own standard just based on the run of success that it's had in the last several seasons, Quakertown, I think, is on the come, and I think the opportunity for them this year to, if not upstage North Penn, at least be competitive, get itself back into the playoffs again, and make some noise.
American Conference, I think a lot of the attention is going to go on Chris Smallwood, the dynamic running back from Upper Moreland. But talking to some coaches, they think Norristown's going to be very good. There's a couple teams in here. Upper Dublin's defensively could be outstanding. I think there's a lot of teams that this is a conference that flies below the radar because of the size thing.
Absolutely. I think Upper Dublin's won the last 2 league titles. A lot of people overlook that. Upper Moreland's going to get a lot of the attention. They've gone to the playoffs and this and that. They are a AAA team, so they've had the opportunity to play in a different bracket of the playoffs. But Upper Dublin, as you mentioned, Norristown's going to be loaded at the skill positions. but Upper Moreland's still going to be right there, and Smallwood's going to have them in the mix right at the top of that league as well, and it should be very interesting. They opened with Strathaven Friday night. They go down to Delaware County for that game, and it's not the Strathaven that was winning state titles 10 years ago, but it's still a very good early test within the AAA bracket for Upper Moreland.
Catholic League also starts this weekend, and one of the interesting games on the weekend docket to me is going to be Archbishop Wood going to Ocean City on Saturday morning and playing Cardinal O'Hara. And Dom, what can you expect out of Wood? They lost a lot of people out of to graduation, but it's almost like they've become this program that just kind of keeps going and going year after year.
Steve Devlin has certainly picked up and kept the program right where it was before he got there. I think they lost a lot before last season, and they were able to put it together their first year in the PIAA and get all the way to Hershey. So while a lot of those skill guys have moved on, they still have a lot coming back, and I think they have to be the prohibitive favorite in the 3A division of the Catholic League heading into the season, just looking at everything on paper.
Could they possibly get back to Hershey?
That's up in the air. I mean, again, anything's possible, I think, and it's very difficult at this level to gauge the relative strengths and weaknesses of some teams. A lot of people have Thomas Jefferson getting back there again out of the West, but of course wouldn't have to face them again until Hershey. But Sealands Grove, the team they beat in the state semifinals last year, is going to be there.
Turning a lot of
and so to automatically pencil Wood in is the East representative in 3A. I wouldn't go that far. It's very early. I do think Wood will be a factor in the play.
Meanwhile, before we go, we should mention our host here at New Hope Soulbury, who are starting their varsity program here for the first time. They've been a club program the last couple of years, and Dom, can you just talk about what's going on here? And I think it's really good for the school and this community that this program's getting underway.
I do believe New Hope Soulbury had a football program 50, 60, 70 years ago, something like that. They decided to bring it back as a club program 2 years ago. They played a junior varsity schedule a year ago. Now they're stepping up and playing at the varsity level as an independent. They will join the Bicentennial Athletic League next season, along with Delaware County Christian, and with Springfield leading the Suburban 1 League. That could mean that the BAL could expand to as many as 8 teams, but for now the focus is on New Hope. Jim DiTullio was a longtime assistant at Bristol High School under George Gatto, where he's also an alumnus. And they've got about 40 kids out for the team this year. They're going to play every game on the road because unfortunately for them they don't have a stadium this year, but they're ready to go, and they will play their first game next Friday, September 11th, down at Bristol, which should be a very interesting matchup, I think, for locally for Bucks County. It's just a good thing to have another presence here on the small school football comes to the upper part of Bucks County.
The biggest challenge I think that a team like this has to face is just keeping the enthusiasm up if results may not be there necessarily right away. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think this has been something that's building, though, with this program, and I think the enthusiasm to play is there. And I think that nobody's under any illusions that they're going to go out and win a state championship this year or next year. But I think just the opportunity to go out there and prove that they can put something together here and go out and play the Bristols, play the Lower Morelands, and hang with them as they do in a lot of the other sports, they're going to develop something here. And Jim has the background, having coached under George Gatto, as I said, at Bristol, it probably won't take long for this program to establish itself in the BAL.
And that'll do it here for week 1. Don't forget, we're here every week with a new video. We'll look ahead to the week ahead. We'll look ahead to the upcoming week. We'll look back at what's going on, some of the various news and notes. There's also a lot of different ways to get to us. One will be on bucksmontsportsnow.com. That's our website. We'll have all of your games on Friday nights. Just as soon as they come in, they're going right onto the web. You'll be able to get them there. There's also going to be our blog. Dom and I are going to be doing a football blog this year on the websites for Intelligencer Now and CourierTimesNow.com that will keep you up to date on as things are going on during the week. Make sure you keep in touch with us. We'll be here all week, and we'll be here next week for another edition of In the Huddle. For Dom Cosentino, I'm Kevin Cooney. Thanks for joining us.